Welcome back to Redeeming Horror, where we believe light shines brightest in the dark. In this video, we'll search for the faith behind the fear in the 1973 horror classic, The Exorcist. 1973 classic, The Exorcist, is widely considered one of the best horror films of all time. Ranker.com even places it at the top of their list of scariest movies ever made. The theater reaction was unlike anything moviegoers had ever experienced before. The film was directed by Billy Friedkin and based on William Peter Blatty's novel. Blatty was a devout Catholic, and his novel was deeply influenced by Catholicism, and he claimed that he wrote the book to inspire people to become Catholic in their faith, even claiming that he'd heard reports of confessions for Christ in New York after the film's release. The New York Times quoted him as saying, "God exists, and the universe itself will have a happy ending." Friedkin himself said that he never thought of The Exorcist as a horror movie, but about what he called the mystery of faith. And Linda Blair, who played Reagan, the possessed young girl, agreed and later called it not a horror, but a theological thriller. At the time of the movie's release, the themes of evil and Satan were being deeply discussed in the Roman Catholic Church. In late 1972, Pope Paul VI gave a papal address entitled Confronting the Devil's Power. In his address, he urged Catholics to return to the study of the devil. He said, "Evil is not merely a lack of something, but an effective agent, a living spiritual being, perverted and perverting, a terrible reality." While the Pope never publicly addressed the film, he sensed the Catholic Church's casual relationship with evil, not grasping its terrible reality in the world. The evangelist Billy Graham commented on the film, famously rejecting it and encouraged Christians not to watch it, even saying that the film print itself was possessed. So, what do you think? Can a movie about demon possession have a positive impact on people's faith, even leading them to Jesus Christ and the church? Or should Christians avoid movies like these entirely? Let me know in the comments. Today, we'll look at 3 gospel themes in The Exorcist that reveal light in the darkness. Number 1, the reality of evil. There's a clear battle at the beginning of The Exorcist, but it's not good versus evil, at least not yet. It's pre-modernity versus modernity. It's the faith of a declining church versus modern skepticism. The 1970s marked a time when many people had moved on from the church, thinking its beliefs and teachings were archaic and outdated, not relevant for the modern world. Even the church was embarrassed of itself and dismissed the supernatural. This battle has to be fought first before good has any chance against evil. The film begins in northern Iraq, following Father Marin, who's at an excavation site. It seems an odd place to begin, but it sets up a stark contrast with modern Georgetown. The scene is filled with religious symbols discovered, with Muslims in religious garb all around the town. The religious symbols point to the weight of the supernatural in the ancient world. This is followed by a journey across the world to Georgetown, where the supernatural is explained away by medicine, psychology, and even skeptical priests. The contrast is intentional. The ancient world acknowledges the reality of spiritual darkness, while the modern world denies it until it can no longer be ignored. Fast forward in the story. After there's clearly something off with Reagan, Chris McNeil, Reagan's mom, who's practically an atheist, seeks all avenues to help her daughter, but no luck. Desperate for anyone to help her after all else failed, she finally turns to the church. But even there, she finds a lack of belief in the supernatural.
And, how do you go about getting an exorcism? Beg your pardon?
Scariest, the priest, who's struggling with his own faith, isn't convinced that an exorcism is needed. Much of the first part of the film depicts the worldly characters coming to grips with the reality of the supernatural. Regan is put through every medical and scientific evaluation possible. And honestly, the most terrifying moment of the film was when she was having an MRI scan. The hopelessness of the story is in the reality that the enemy that they are fighting isn't even believed by anyone. Before they have any chance to standing against the evil, they have to acknowledge it. They have to believe it. They have to believe in evil before confronting it. Demon possession led Chris McNeil to the church. Have you had any dark moment in your life that led you to Christ? If so, and if you'd be willing to share, I'd love to read them in the comments. Who knows? Your testimony could help someone else. The first theme that we covered is the reality of evil. The second is the work of evil. Now that the main characters have finally realized that evil exists, what does the evil do? What's its goal? What does evil want? Early in the movie, Chris heard a banging noise coming from the attic, which he assumed to be rats. But it's where the presence of evil entered her home before entering the body of Regan. Evil is often present in our lives, in the hidden places, before we see it fully manifested, in the attics and closets of our lives and souls that we tend to ignore. There are usually signs that warn us, but so easy to ignore. But before long, if we ignore the signs, it can grow and fully manifest. This is what happened in the McNeil home. Through playing with a Ouija board, Regan invited the demon living in their attic into herself. The takeover was slow, but once it started, it's violent. Regan's body becomes the battleground for good and evil. Evil tortured the innocent young girl. But it's more than that. The demon used her body to torment everyone else, especially Chris, Karis, and Marin. The possession of Regan is a way for the demon to manifest itself in the world. I think we tend to see demon possession as only for torturing the possessed, but it tortures the living just as much, maybe even more. One of the most frightening scenes is when Regan's head turns completely around, 360. According to Blatty, that wasn't just for shock value, but it hinted at what the demon had just asked McNeil.
You know what she did?
The demon was referencing the man, Burt Dennings, who died from breaking his neck after strangely falling from Regan's window. The head turn was the demon mocking his death while putting the blame of his death on Chris's daughter. It also preyed on Karis's guilt for his mother. She'd been ill and recently died, and he believed that it was his fault for not caring for her enough. The demon attacked this vulnerability repeatedly throughout the film. And another haunting scene is when she stabbed herself over and over again with a crucifix, mocking God. The demon is having fun, from desecrating a sanctuary to the body of the young girl. It could kill her any time if it wanted, and it could escape, but it preferred torment and mockery of God. But more than anything else, it lies. The work of the demon is lying. Karis and Father Marin come to do the exorcism. Marin had performed one before and clearly understood the magnitude of what they were facing. But their biggest threat, as we've come to already see, is that it lies.
He's a liar. The demon is a liar. He will like to confuse us. you will also mix lies with the truth.
The demon is a liar. John 8:44, Jesus calls Satan the father of lies. Evil has no power other than that of deceiving, manipulating, and distorting truth. That's its only weapon. That's why Marin says not to listen to the demon. Its power is in distortion. Since Jesus is the truth, Satan's greatest work is lying. That's all that it's able to do. Our final gospel theme in today's video is found in the film's conclusion: sacrifice. The story climaxes in Father Karras' sacrifice. Marin has died, and Karras is unable to complete the exorcism without him. Yet, he defeats the demon, and he does it by giving his life for the young girl. He invited the demon into himself and then hurled himself from the window, expelling the demon from her body and eventually his in death. What's so beautiful about this is Karras died for a girl that he'd never met. He only knew Reagan as a possessed girl, but he gives his life for her anyway. This climax recalls the words of the Apostle Paul in Romans 5, speaking of God's love toward humanity when we were at our worst. God demonstrated his love for us, and that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. This sacrifice clearly points us to Christ's cross, where Karras took on the demon from Reagan and died to free her. Christ took on the sin of the entire world and died to free all. The hope, the gospel of this film, and the hope of humanity is found in sacrifice. The Exorcist reminds us that evil is real, but it also shows that even in the darkest places, sacrifice, faith, and Christ's power bring victory. So what do you think? In this classic horror film, where can you find good news? Thanks for watching. And remember, light shines brightest in the dark.